Okay, so you asked me about the blog post process, um, and I wanted to show you also like what goes into the blog post, and then we'll actually do an exercise together. So our current release is 12.5. You should have a similar board where you have your 12.5 items. And then the things that get into the blog post are only things that are completed in this milestone, okay? Now, when I say things that are completed, it's not everything. The only thing that we put into a blog post is something that's labeled with direction. There's a direction label, so I'm going to filter this board with direction, which means that usually bugs don't make it to the blog posts unless it's like super interesting. But new features, anything that's customer facing, APIs, things like that that go into the blog post. Okay? So at the moment, you can see I have nothing that's going to be in the blog post, but I have things that I know are close. Things that are currently in review will probably make it by the 22nd to the release, and so we can choose one of them and work on it.
And remind me again, when is the first draft of the blog post due?
Let me check the handbook because it changes all the time. I think it's like towards the 17th it's supposed to be done. Let me just say GitLab release blog post. Okay, so I will send you this also in the chat. When is it due? So we released the version on the 22nd. That hasn't changed, but the freeze has moved to the 17th. I think the 17th is when it's due. So you should really start working on this like a week before, like on the 10th or something like that. Yeah. So it's on the 17th, like I said.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. Basically, we want everything to be done before the blog post, before the release that goes out on the 22nd. So it gives you a few days of back and forth. So I'm sending you in the chat the handbook page. Okay?
Got it. Thanks.
Okay, so going back to my board, I wanted to work today. I saved it especially for you, and I didn't work on it last week. So this item, just because I know, is the item that I wanted to work on. It's called Make It Possible to Edit a Release Using the UI. Okay, and you can see it's marked as direction. So this is an interesting item. Let's open it in the tab. Okay, basically what this item does is we added an icon that allows you to edit a release from the release pages. It sounds basic, but we didn't have this up until now. So there's a lot of detail here. We're going to need to summarize it. Okay. So when we go to the blog post, I don't know if you work through the IDE or the terminal, but I like working with the IDE. So we need to go to gitlab.com and to the repository, into the files, and under data, release posts is where we're going to work. You can see there's unreleased, and then there's a bunch of files, YAML files with dates on them. These are old release posts. If you want to read them, I recommend to go to the actual release post and not to open it through the YAML file. But we're going to go down release because that's where we're working. Okay. So what you can see here in the folder is basically samples.
Okay.
Which you're going to work off of. Okay.
Okay. So GitLab.com, you go into the repository, you go into the files, data. Okay, gotcha. All right.
Okay. So let's look at each one of them. I'll just give you a high level view before we drill down. So the first one is primary. Okay, so you have a bunch of features that you're releasing, and so does everyone else. And we need to decide the way the release post looks is what's going to be the top items, what's going to be a primary item, what's going to be a secondary item. Let me just see if I can open the last release that we did. So I'll show you what I mean. Okay. So this is the last one, 12.4. Okay, and you can see the top items is improved merge request dependencies and audit API. Those were the features that were considered the top features. The person that decides this, there's usually a poll in the product channel on Slack. But you're supposed to advocate for your features, and whoever is going to build the release post at the end of the day is going to decide what goes in there. And you can see these are the two ones, so they got the most attention, okay? And then when you scroll down, you see there's an MVP, okay? So if we go back to the templates, one second, MVP YAML, okay, is actually this thing here, and that's the person who contributed the most to the release. It's usually a community contribution that is substantial. And that there's a poll also on the product channel where people just vote and select who they think made the most substantial contribution. Okay. Next is key features. Okay, so key features correlates to what's called primary here. Okay. So the key features that were in this release, you can see they have, each feature has like some kind of description. It has the stage, this is the stage that it belongs to, what tiers it's supported on, and a brief description and a screenshot or a video, and a link to the documentation and issue, and I'll show you how that looks exactly in the YAML. Okay, so basically here, this is the one of them. Mine, it actually had a video, but there was some kind of bug in 12.4, and it didn't show up, so we made it a link. But basically, this can have either a video or an image. Okay, so you need to understand, you need to remember that any primary feature, it's probably important enough to have some kind of indication like image or video.
Okay, so if it's primary, either an image or video should be included, okay?
Yes, has to be, must be.
Must be included, got it, okay.
Okay, the next section is what correlates to the secondary YAML. That's this one here. And basically what you can see here is that it's kind of the same concept, but now there's two in a line. Like it doesn't have a primary space, it's two in a row. And these are secondary items. Okay, so secondary items, the same idea. It's the stage, the tier, description. They may or may not have image. So you can see this one doesn't have an image.
Okay.
But may or may not. Okay. So here's one of mine. I had an API issue. There's nothing to show. Right? Okay. Next we have deprecations. I personally have never done one of these because the release stage is pretty new, but if you deprecate a feature, it needs to be posted here as well. And that is deprecation YAML. And then the last one that we can see here is the important notes on upgrading to get added to 12.4. This one, I actually had to add into 12.4, and it was very, very problematic because I think the sample YAML file wasn't good, but at the end of the day, we overcame it, and the data went in. So that's kind of the overview of what YAMLs you need to work on. Now, the process has changed over time. The latest process that we have in place now is that you create a single merge request per single change to the release blog post. So let's say you have 8 features that you're releasing.
Mm-hmm.
Each one of them needs to be in a different MR.
Okay, so if I have, so let me just understand. So if I have 8 features and assume for a moment all 8 features were primary features, that means 8 MR. Doesn't matter.
Could be primary or secondary. Each YAML file has its own MR.
Okay.
It's a little bit different than the vision pages that we update monthly because that we do usually one merge request for all the updates. And this one is an individual. Okay. There's been talk about changing it, but that's the latest. So if we take a look at the primary YAML file, I'm going to open it already in the web IDE because I just like it better. Okay, so you can see there's a bunch of instructions of how to fill it out, but it's pretty simple. You have features and then you have primary. The secondary is very similar. It just says secondary. See, it just tells the page where to go.
Right, it's just a front banner for the page. Got it. Yeah.
You have the name of the feature, and we'll fill this out in a minute. Where it's available in. Okay, this line is tricky. I usually remove it. If you don't remove it, it means that it's not supported on GitLab.com.
If you don't remove the false value or the entire key value.
I remove the whole line because everything I have is supported by GitLab.com. But I don't know. I tried changing it to true and false, and every time it messed it up, so I just remove it.
Okay.
Documentation link. So our definition of done is that when you complete a feature, it must have documentation added to it. So there should be a link to the new documentation, and you can see there's the pound sign. The pound sign will tell you exactly where the new feature belongs. So in my case, where we're doing an exercise on the edit file, I'm not sure that it exists, but let's check. So edit, release, documentation, GitLab, and that we didn't write anything. Okay, so it looks like it was added. Let's see, edit. Okay, so you see the new icon that exists? The new one we added?
Right, and this was done in 12. This was done in 12.4. Or is this to be done in 12.5?
No, this is still 12.5. It's already.
Okay, so they already got the docs out and everything. But the code hasn't been merged yet, right?
Some of the merge requests went through, but not all of them. So it's towards completion. That's why we're working on it. It's not done yet, but it's getting there.
Got it. So I see. So we can actually have a state where the docs are actually ready, but we're still like wrapping up the final code merges. Interesting. Okay, that's good.
Also, lots of the features will be ready and already merged to GitLab.com before the actual 22nd of the month.
I see.
That's like the best ideal situation because you can actually play around with your features and create videos about it. More times than less, the features like make it the end of the day and you're like running around looking for screenshots, but you can always ask developers to help.
Right. Okay. So you don't have they don't have like a staging dev environment you can log into to see the feature before it gets merged to the prod GitLab?
So it depends on the feature. And a lot of people have like their own staging. And then you don't really have access. So you kind of need to mimic their work, but you don't really have time to create these projects yourself. I've tried that before. It takes a lot of time. So in my experience, anything that's in GitLab.com is so much easier. Play around with it. You can like open new issues if you find something wrong. It's great. So if you see on the documentation, there's like a little link here. Do you see the little link?
Yep.
So you can copy it and then paste it into the YAML.
And the permalink gets added automatically just once it has a header in the YAML file, right?
Come again?
I don't know. I'll figure it out. I was asking a question about how the permalinks get created, but I think I know.
I don't know. The documentation team would need to answer. Okay. Next, you have the image URL or the video. Here, video. So it's either or. There's not, like, they don't both show up. So what happened to me before was that I had a video and it wasn't working. So I had to like have a standby image. So it's maybe good to have it like in a note if you have a standby image, but I mean, don't worry about it.
Hey, so if you, in this particular example, if you were going to replace, if you're actually going to pop a video in here, will you change the key value player from image_URL to video?
I'll change the video to this one.
Okay.
And please note that when you add videos, it has to be with an embed link. I've done this mistake before. I'm just learning from my mistakes, so you don't do them. When you create a video, you'll probably upload it to Unfiltered, and then Unfiltered gives you a link. The link is not embedded. Make sure to get the embedded link, and then that's what you need to paste here.
Okay, upload to Unfiltered. The link is embedded. Get the embedded link. Ensure you include the embedded link here. And really fast, do you use QuickTime to create your videos, or any other quick tips on that?
I actually record them via Zoom.
Just Zoom? Okay.
I don't do anything fancy.
Okay, awesome.
There's also some restrictions regarding the images, the screenshots. I don't remember them by heart, but it's probably written in the handbook. Like it can't exceed 1,000 pixels width and things like that. It can't be over 200 megs. So just be sure to make sure that you're not you're following the rules. Okay. Next is reporter. This will be your handle, your GitLab handle. And then your stage. Issue URL will be this.
All the way back to that guy, right? Yeah.
This URL. And a quick description. So let's try to create one together. We have 9 minutes. Hopefully this will be enough. I'm going to call this edit release .yaml. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I am going to copy everything from the sample. Oh, just 1 second. This is very annoying. Created. Edit release. Okay. So now it created a new branch. Have you done this before?
Yeah, I have for the vision page updates, but I'm interested to see how it works, if there are any kind of crooks here with this particular.
Okay, so what's important to note when you're creating your MR is to do the whip, because it's not complete yet. It's not. It has to. After you finish, you need to tag on your technical writer and marketing counterparts to approve whatever you're doing. So it can't be automatically merged. Okay, so it's a whip. I'm going to call this edit release. 12.5 blog post. Edit release. Okay. For now, I'm just going to copy this. And if I have data to add later, I'll add it. It's what's important to add here. 12.5 milestone. Okay. Labels. So you're going to put in your stage. Okay. And you're going to put down release blog post, release post. Okay. Those are the two labels that you need. I personally like to assign it to myself because then I can see it's more visible, but you can do whatever you want.
So in this case, you had to do, because of the way GitLab works, you had to do a merge request, even though the only change you made was just create a new file, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And now, if I go back to the file, open with IDE. One minute. Okay, so edit release. I'm going to copy everything from the primary. It didn't let me do it before, but now I'll just do it. Okay, and I pasted it.
And you say you say you like doing it. It's faster for you doing it in the web IDE like this versus saying doing it in a terminal editor or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you're more comfortable in the terminal, then feel free. You can just, VI a file and create it and upload it. I prefer this one. Okay, so I gave it a title. It's available on all of them. I'm going to remove the line, as I said. Stupid indentation. But this can sometimes give you problems. Okay, so image URL. Oh, sorry, not image. I wanted the issue URL. This page. My handle. Documentation link.
That's yours, right?
What?
Was that your phone or mine?
It was mine.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so documentation link. I have a video somewhere. I'll do that later. I don't think you need to see me copy paste. And then I want to give a brief summary, but it's really important to be positive in the message that we're giving. So here's what I think I'm going to say. This might change, okay, but just to give you an idea, in this release, we are adding the capability to edit a release directly from the user interface and not having to go through the API level. Something like that.
Yeah, makes sense.
And that's it.
Seems very positive.
What?
That seems very, so now you've got your first draft. It's still a work in progress, right?
Yes, it's still a work in progress. So added details, edit release. I'll add the video when I find it. And then once I finished, I don't need to wait for anything. I can ping the PMM and the technical writer directly on it to review already today. I don't need them to rush it or review with everything together. Like the earlier you do this, the better if you know that something is going to be ready.
Gotcha. So, okay, so going back, I think about a week or two ago, Jason said, so this was what Jason was referring to, I think, in the CI/CD PM Shamba 2 weeks ago. He already gotten a jump start on his 12.5 release post, kind of a thing. So this is what he was referring to, just getting that jump start now.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Good. So,
okay, cool. So that makes sense. I have one quick question. So this makes sense for the release post. If you wanted to actually create like a separate blog post on, like you go to gitlab.com and there's that blog post section where it's like you have like topic blogs. Is there a different process for that? I guess it's in the handbook. You probably find it.
It's a totally different process. You need to create an issue on it. You need to be very clear about what you want to do. What the outputs are, you need to involve marketing. It's totally different than this one.
Than the release post. I see. So yeah, so that's where the kind of dichotomy comes in. Okay. And my last question, so just kind of reflecting back on the 12.4 release, I wasn't quite 100%, as I said earlier, I wasn't quite 100% following some of the challenges, but can you just summarize some of the challenges you were having and why that was so difficult for you guys to get through?
So the main challenge I had has nothing to do with the YAML file, which is rather simple. It had to do with the fact that it was unclear what was going to make it. We had a bunch of issues stuck in review, things that were completed that were pulled back by dev at the last minute. So that was the experience that was problematic for me. It had nothing to do with this process. In the past, there were problems with late reviews of tech writers, but I thought that in that sense, it went really well in 12.4. I had everything reviewed ahead of schedule, but not everything made it. So like I have 2 blog posts ready for 12.5 because they just didn't make 12.4. They're actually still stuck here. Where's my board? So they're actually still stuck in the board in review. So review is very painful because there's not a lot of people that are considered allowed to do reviews, and there's a big queue.
Got it. That's very helpful. Hey, well, Orit, this was super helpful. I think I can get my first drafts done today with a little bit more comfort. And
great. I'll post this video so you can have it for further reference.
this is super awesome. Thank you so much for reaching out and doing it. I really appreciate it.
Sure, no problem.
Thanks.
Bye. Have a great day.
Bye. Same to you. Cheers, everyone.
Bye.